Mr. Kolluri, while it's fresh in my mind, you referenced the World Cup host committee a few times in response to certain questions. Is the World Cup host committee a decision-making partner to you when it comes to things like parking, access to the site?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. It's why I wish that the host committee were here today. I think that there's plenty of room on the end. We could have had them. I think we would have benefited from that. It's why my colleagues here have asked for a hearing with the host committee. I think it's a missed opportunity, but I appreciate you clarifying their role in this process. Let me follow up with a specific question regarding the World Cup. For the last year, I've had many constituents concerned, small businesses that operate private transportation companies, whether they are buses or limos, for example. My office has been working on this with others to get clarity on where these private transportation services may drop off passengers for the game. It's my understanding that as of last week, there is no coordinated drop-off location for these private services. Is that correct? And can you clarify when we might know the correct and proper drop-off location?
So I think we have a more up-to-date information. I'm just waiting for the state police to confirm. I just wanted, we will have, again, this goes to the Assemblyman's question on an unauthorized TLC, which is a little bit different than what you're talking about.
Correct.
As a general matter, we think people should use the host committee buses, FIFA buses, our transit trains to get to where we need to get to. But if somebody insists on having a bus, we're working with the state police to finalize a location near American Dream where they can drop off and leave.
Okay.
It's not a drop and stay. Look, I don't know why you would want to do it. This idea that you're going to get some random bus to bring you into literally the most secure location and then help you find your way to the stadium to save a few bucks seems a little weird to me, but we will have a location.
So what happens? So let's say you take the private bus to American Dream, if that ends up being the location. Mm-hmm. How do you get to the game from there?
You walk.
Okay, at that point it's just a walk.
Yep.
Understood. You think we'll have that confirmed soon?
Soon, yeah.
Like a week?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Last question for you, Mr. Kolluri. Switching gears, can you give us an update on the Andover rail station?
I will get you a written response, but look, I know this is a station that you care a lot about, and it is part of our capital plan, and I will get back to you in writing exactly where we're on schedule.
I very much appreciate it.
Sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolluri.
Yep.
Can I go to Administrator Johnson, please? Administrator, the MVC says on its website that it's been using the National Driver Registry and the Problem Driver Pointer System for all driver license applicants since the 1990s, when I believe federal participation became necessary. However, in recent conversations that I've had and my office has had with constituents as well as your staff, it's become clear that the MVC has been using that system for commercial driver's licenses, but not anything else. The ordinary drivers, you and me, at least not until recently. So it caught many of my constituents by surprise. And we've gotten a lot of calls on this in the last few months saying, hey, there's a new system, my renewal's in limbo, what's going on here? So can you tell me, have there been any recent changes in policy at the MVC with respect to the NDR system?
Yeah, thank you, Assemblyman, for the question. So in March of 2023, MVC here in New Jersey implemented what's called state-to-state. Mm-hmm. And that is the driver history record, the problem driver pointer system that you just spoke about for non-commercial driver licenses. And it's actually one of the mechanisms many jurisdictions use to ensure that we are compliant with Real ID, where it's one person, one license, right? So when you move from Colorado to New Jersey, in addition to looking at any suspensions, withdrawals, those types of issues, it will also, when I get my New Jersey driver license, which I did, I did.
You had a clean record in Colorado.
With good. A clean record in Colorado. You know, it's funny that you say that, Assemblyman, because the staff, when I was getting my New Jersey driver license, we were praying that you had a clean record and we didn't have to tell you something.
Would have been a little awkward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, in addition, it will automatically cancel my driver license in Colorado, which it did.
Okay.
So state to state is governed and owned by AMVA, the American Association for Motor Vehicle Administrators. So they have that central data lake for all of the jurisdictions, and so they have a schedule, as well as, they work with jurisdictions as quickly as they can to get that on schedule. New Jersey also has the Cobalt mainframe system, which took a little bit longer for New Jersey to be able to get all of the development and pieces needed to attach to that system.
Okay, so I don't mean to interrupt, but
No, that's okay.
when did we start using this system?
So I just found out this morning, February of 2023 is when we got on the system. So when you hear things from constituents like, hey, I just, tried to do a renewal and I got an issue, the AMVA puts on new jurisdictions all the time. And so when we have a new jurisdiction, like say Texas comes onto the system, every jurisdiction in the US is going to feel that a little bit, because now we have 35 million more drivers that it's running against. Mm-hmm. So as new jurisdictions come onto this state to state, and there's probably, I want to say like a dozen left that are not on state to state, as we get those onto that program, we will start, the system will talk to each other for those jurisdictions. So we'll start to see those suspensions and other things pop up as people move.
Got it. Well, it was a noticeable change, that's for sure. And I'm sure some of my colleagues are hearing from constituents on this as well. Was it delayed? Should this have happened years ago?
So thank you for the question. So state to state started in 2015 is when jurisdictions started getting onto it. And so again, I can't really say to whether New Jersey was late to the game or not, because they are on AMVA's schedule too. And so AMVA prioritizes which jurisdictions it wants to go to. And so there are some huge states like California and Texas that we're waiting on to get those onto that state-to-state program. So I wouldn't say, I can't say whether we're really late to the game or in the first decade of it. At the end of the first decade with all jurisdictions, but we do still have a few left. Understood. After New Jersey.
Okay, that's helpful clarification. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You think we'll ever get back to no appointments at the MVC?
So that's not something that I have researched or looked at right now. I can tell you that COVID did a lot of things around the nation, one of them being appointment only at all MVCs, essentially, around the nation. And that's something that has been able to control the flow coming in. It's been able to help with efficiencies and being able to get the right technician to the right type of appointment when we use appointment only. It's really great for training and onboarding. So if you have appointments from a renewal all the way to a CDL, there are different levels of specialty that you need as a technician in an MVC to be able to issue those. So if we have appointments for renewals, we can kind of put our newer folks on there because that's an easier transaction all the way up to CDL. So it is a system that has worked very well for jurisdictions across the country. And it's not something that we are looking at of going back to just a walk-in basis. However, I can tell you, and I confirm this with every single MVC location when I go to visit. I go every Friday. I visit different locations. That if somebody does walk in and doesn't have an appointment, they will absolutely see them if they have the bandwidth. If it's not like crazy in there, so they are taking those same day appointments or walk-ins continually.
Okay. What does Colorado do? Do they do appointments?
They do appointments.
They do appointments. Okay. Thank you, Administrator. My last question is for the Commissioner. How you doing, Commissioner? We spoke about this time ago. You and I live on other sides of what was the Route 80 sinkhole, and we can never forget that situation. So let's talk about it a little bit. The sinkhole on Route 80 was, among other things, a tremendous wake-up call for the state of New Jersey. We knew the importance of Route 80. What I don't think we fully understood at the time was the sheer number of these potential sinkholes, AKA abandoned mines, that dot our landscape, particularly in northwest New Jersey, from Parsippany to Chester, where I am, all the way up to Sparta. I think we have Thomas Edison to blame for some of this and the trail of abandoned mines he left throughout his stay in New Jersey. And one of my takeaways from that experience is that we were working with very old maps. Very old maps. So when this was hot and heavy in the summer of last year, I remember looking at some of these maps, which were very grainy, very pixelated. They were scans of old documents from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I zoomed in as best I could, and that's when I learned I have a sinkhole, an abandoned mine in my backyard. I mean that literally, not figuratively, in my backyard. And it's one of hundreds that dot Chester and Randolph, all the way out to Parsippany and Sparta, as I said. So my question for you is, how can we do better than these old grainy maps? What is the plan to identify these abandoned mines and potential sinkholes? What is the plan to rank them by hazard? And what is the plan to mitigate these?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman. I share your concern because, yes, I also go up and down Route 80. And I would say I'm looking at this problem. It's a multi-agency problem. So even though DOT responded to it, and I really commend the department on how quickly they moved on it, for us to come up with a holistic solution, it will require in coordination with DEP, with Department of Labor. And the first step is to go identify, and then what do we need to do to go shore it up? So the department does not have all the expertise, and I know there's a couple of bills that are in place, and you and your partners, our legislation is looking at it to say, what do we do to move this forward? So pretty critical, and I'm looking forward to working with them to see what do we need to do to get to the next step. So I put it in the bucket of proactiveness. I mean, we have aging infrastructure, we have these issues below the ground, and how do we make sure that we get visibility to at least a number of them so that we can go ahead and start fixing them.
Absolutely. I think when you talk about legislation, there's a bill around here to create a mine reclamation program within the state. That's a major undertaking.
Yep.
I think the experience from Route 80 tells us it is necessary. It is an absolutely critical step that we need to take as a state. But separate and apart from that, I hope that your department can still proactively update the maps so we're not zooming in on old scans from over 50 years ago.
I think one of the things that came out of doing this work was that as we are looking at new infrastructure jobs or looking at other things, we are starting to look at it and say we are doing better geotechnical borings. We're identifying things where we are starting to put them on GIS maps. Again, it's going to be a huge undertaking, and in some cases, this is as we get into some of these new projects, let's go ahead and update our maps. But really, to be able to go and do it, we just almost have to say this is a separate effort, bring the right people together.
Right, right. On the technical side, are there experiences, and you're new to the department, so you have a measure of grace here, but do your colleagues in the Department of Transportation, were there learnings from that experience that suggest best practices with respect to literally filling some of these sinkholes?
So I would say a couple of things, right? It's about, we did end up installing sensors, and there's a whole system over there, and it detects if there's any movement. I would say my team knows that as soon as there's a little bit of movement, we're immediately evaluating what's going on over there. And as far as filling those sinkholes go, again, depending upon, I'll kind of go into my little bit of environmental background. When you have these mines, and depending upon how they have shifted, what's the right way to go ahead and fill them? I think that's a process, but that's where we need to be working with DEP and other people around it.
Understood. Well, I appreciate it. I wish you well in that very important endeavor and look forward to being a supportive partner. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.